everyone. Welcome to One-on-One with Ayanthi Philip. Today I have here with me Dr. Michelle Kleiss. She is the head of school of the Overseas School of Colombo. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayanthi.
It's great to have you. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Kleiss. And may I call you Michelle?
Please do.
All right. So Michelle, you grew up in Canada and did your higher education in America through a full athletic scholarship. You have a PhD in educational leadership and worked in international schools in South America, Europe, in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And you headed schools in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Am I right?
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You received an award from the Association for the Advancement of International Education for your contribution to international education. So 25 years of experience and exposure.
Yes.
Wow. It's a privilege to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I have some questions, so may I get started?
Please do.
The Sri Lankan and British school system is quite similar in terms of having a timetable and a structure. I understand the international baccalaureate system, which you are an expert of, is quite different.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us about it?
Sure, I'm happy to. The International Baccalaureate system is an educational system from age 3 to about 18. So children start at preschool and can go all the way through the continuum until they graduate for university. The whole idea of the IB program is to create inquirers, knowledgeable and caring young people who really want to take care of their planet and have a shared sense of common humanity and developing really a peaceful world along with intercultural understanding and respect. Mm-hmm. The program is based on 3 continuums. There are about 4,000 IB schools around the world, almost 1.5 million children who are educated in the IB system. The 3 programs and the continuums start in primary school. So it's the primary years program, the middle years program for grade 6 through grade 10, and the diploma program for the last 2 years of high school.
Okay.
The real difference probably between some of the more traditional programs in high school and the IB is that it's not so much heavy on content and regurgitation of facts and memorization. It's a little bit more about thinking and to teach kids how to think, how to evaluate, how to think about and understand different perspectives and how to integrate thinking to create more solutions to problems that we're facing worldwide.
Right.
So we do have the traditional courses like math and science and literature and economics and all of those things. I think the big difference is the interdisciplinary links between them and the personalization that happens within those courses. So there are a lot of personal projects that go on, developing kids' interests and helping them not just develop their interests, but sort of tap into their motivation. And so by tapping into their motivation, we help them build relevance and purpose in their learning. And that really gets them excited and become lifelong learners.
That's very interesting. So what does a typical school day look like for a year 3 child at an IB school? So
year 3 would be like grade 3, I suspect, and 8 years old, maybe turning 9. Yeah. And they would have a full day of school, just like anyone else. But what they'll be doing is studying their units and exploring their units of study. So there are about 6 units of study throughout the whole year. They're thematic units and integrated units. So one of the first ones that we start off at the beginning of the year is who we are and understanding our relationship within the world and understanding our rights and responsibilities as citizens and community members.
Sure.
Going deeper, we would be looking at our belief systems and our values. And so we would start thinking about what does everybody in this class believe? What are their values? What are their family values? And we'd compare and contrast those. We'd use our own demographic, let's say, as a resource.
Right.
And then the teacher would say, okay, if we're going to look at different religious values or different cultural values, let's start thinking about surveying our wider community and see how many different types of belief systems we might have in our community. So to bring math into that, for example, we might start looking at a survey and graphically representing our learnings through some type of statistical interpretation.
Right.
So the math content is there, the social sciences content is there, but we're also using ourselves as resources, and we're looking at that comparing and the contrasting of different people's perspectives and beliefs.
So is it more like learning by doing?
It's learning by doing, it's researching, it's inquiring, it's learning how to work with others to create new understandings
Right.
about the world.
Right.
And that's how you're building the intercultural respect and the intercultural understanding within your community, because you're really valuing what the other person's position is.
So, okay, so for example, on a Monday morning, what would the child be doing as they enter at, say, 8 in the morning?
Okay, so they would come in, they would sit with their teacher, they would talk about the class for the day, the program for the day. Maybe in that particular unit of study, they might brainstorm together, what are all the different values and belief systems in our class right now? What are some of the wider ones? And how would we figure out some of the other ones in the rest of the classes of the school? What are the methods we could use to understand how others operate? Could we use a survey? Could we do interviews? Primary resources, primary sources.
Sure.
And so we're teaching children how to learn and how to gain information from others. So it's not just about opening up a textbook and reading about all the different types of belief systems that there are in a culture or a community, but it's actually going out and doing and finding out for yourself. And by doing that, you're developing all kinds of 21st century skills.
So learn by inquiry.
Learn by inquiry, and we become knowledgeable through inquiry, and we become caring and empathic when we learn how to collaborate with others.
Fantastic. Okay, so when the Easter attacks happened last year, you pioneered the distance learning program. So this was in the event that children would have to be homeschooled.
Correct.
Yeah. And when the lockdown happened this year, you immediately began this distance learning program. And that's very futuristic thinking. So tell us about this online program that you have built.
Okay, so I think a lot of schools are doing this and preparing and planning for a distance learning plan because of COVID-19.
Yes.
But it could be for other reasons as well. And it's just a good backup plan to have in lieu of face-to-face learning, which is our more traditional approach.
Yeah.
The distance learning plan that our school put together is based on a number of sort of principles. One, we wanted to make sure there was no loss of learning time as we transitioned from our face-to-face environment to this plan. So we just took a couple of days, but we had already planned this for about 3 months in advance, thinking what would happen if from one day to the next, this is our new situation. So we put together a lot of communications and messages for parents. It was very important for our parents to understand what their role was going to play in this situation.
Yes.
So we did a lot of parent education, a lot of communication. This is what your child's schedule would look like at home, in a primary school, in a middle school, and in the high school. This is how our teachers would deliver the curriculum, asynchronous or synchronous. So sometimes it would be real time, live, online. Other times we would give them projects to develop their independent skills, but there was always check-in time with the students and always face-to-face time. So our parents really were facilitators. Our parents of younger children had to metamorphose into being a teacher in many levels, but we provided them a lot of support. Then we had our counselors who provided the social and emotional lessons as well as support, our specialist teachers, our language teachers who also continued on with the Mandarin and the French, but all through using the technology that we had put into place. So really, I think it's paramount that the technology infrastructure is in place, whether it's a government school, a private school, any school needs to really consider technology as the foundation for any distance learning plan. The infrastructure, the hardware, and the software. We were in a fortunate position to have that in place, and I know a lot of schools do as well, but it's something that we have to continue working on.
Right. In your 25 years, you worked across cultures, many different countries, setting up schools all over the world. Mm-hmm. In your view, what are the factors that make up quality education?
Good question. I think there are many. The research and my experience says that hiring the very best teachers is the best thing I can do for a school. So really being thorough in that recruitment process, and not only hiring them, but developing them, supporting them, evaluating them, providing them with feedback. There's a lot of things that should happen once you hire a staff member or a teacher to continue their growth and development. So I would say that hiring the very best teacher and putting the very best teacher you can in the classroom has the greatest effect on student achievement. After that, I would say providing a robust curriculum that has a global perspective, based on a lot of interdisciplinary learning. So not just looking at teaching subjects in isolation, but actually seeing the connections between subject areas and understanding the conceptual understandings that can run across different subject areas. Those two are really quite important. And then I would say teaching kids how to communicate really well, collaborate really well are also highly regarded in the field of education, because if you can't communicate and you can't collaborate and care about your peer or your friend, then we're not building healthy citizens.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming here today. It's such a pleasure to have someone with so much knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.